Welcome to Cross the Line Sports. My name is Carlos Smith, and we are back again with another special edition of WNBA Talk with Miss Nicole Oltz. Nicole, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Let me start off by saying I know we didn't get to do a show last week, but happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And I
Getting
hope
old,
you,
man. Getting old.
yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely hope you enjoyed your birthday. And there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on around the league, some trades,
Oh
players
yeah.
being waived. So we're gonna just jump right into it. So one of the big moves, and I know we've been talking about this team, recent champions in the past few years, the Las Vegas Aces. They finally made a move, which they needed to, and they got Nalyssa Smith. So with that move, I'll let you go ahead and break down your thoughts about Smith moving to the Aces.
It's awesome, I think. I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten how talented Smith is.
Hmm.
Um, her numbers and overall production was kind of down on Dallas. So this is
Hmm.
kind of like a fresh start for her too. Um, you know, any help is, welcome and an improvement in Vegas right now, I feel like. So
Right.
is definitely a good move for Vegas. I mean, trading the 2027 number one pick. They're trying to win now. Like, who knows
Hmm.
what that 2027, pick could be a fantastic player, but that's in 2027. It's 2025 right now.
Right.
So, I do appreciate that, they're operating with no GM still. So, to go out there and still make this move and to acknowledge what a deficit they had on their roster and that they needed to fix it immediately. And then to go out there and get a player like Smith, I think it's a win for the Aces. I mean, to be determined if I don't know what Dallas is doing still. They're improving, but slowly. Um, so yeah, I mean, they went out there and kind of filled some gaps. I think the addition of Heinz Allen made her a little expendable since
Hmm.
they're similar players. I don't know what they're going to do with McCowan when she comes back. I kind of thought she'd be the first one out the door, but maybe she's sticking around. So to be determined there as well. But definitely a win for the Aces. Aces fans, you should be very happy about this.
Yeah. I like the move, just because I always felt like they were a little. When I looked at the Aces, I feel like they need to get a little bit more athletic. And no offense to, no disrespect to Kia Stokes, but they had to get more scoring in the post as well. She didn't really
Sure.
give them a lot of scoring, so Nalyssa, she can help stretch the floor. It's gonna take some pressure off of Asia. Defensively, she's gonna help as well. Like I said, she's another athletic body that they can use. Because when I watched the Aces, like I said, my biggest flaw was I said that I've always felt like they needed another body to, to go alongside Asia and the depth of the bench, which I still it's gonna be interesting to see how they still fill out the bench as well. Because I'm still not sold on it. Because it's gonna be interesting to see if they put Nalyssa in the starting lineup. Just
I
depending.
I think she'll. I don't know if it'll be immediately. I think she'll make her way there quickly, though.
Yeah, I think it's
She's gritty. They're gonna
because
like her in Vegas.
yeah, you gotta, and especially if you're giving up a first round pick for her anyway.
Yeah,
So you definitely
for
got to
sure.
put her in the lineup. And like I said, I just felt like they had to get some kind of offensive production alongside the Asia. So I think that's definitely gonna help them. But when I was watching the Aces play when Asia was out, and I was just like, man, without Asia, this team is small. They're not a big
Yeah.
team at all. And I was like, man, they needed somebody else to go along with Asia. So I definitely like the move. Like I said, I'm still gonna be interested to see what they do with their bench. I know they got I know she's out right now with pregnancy, Miss Cheyenne Parker Tyus, but I think she'll be able to help them, when she gets back as well. But definitely
Sure.
getting Asia some help down in the paint was something that they desperately needed. So I think I like the move, but it's gonna be interesting to see, once she finds her rhythm, you know, uh,
Hmm.
how it all shakes out with them.
Yeah, I think she definitely takes some of the pressure off of some of their other key players as well. They were filling gaps that maybe were a little too big for all of them to fill at this stage. So
Hmm.
I think it's a good team addition. She's
Right.
an awesome teammate, and every team she's been on, like her teammates have loved her. So
Had they not made this move though, in my mind, I was thinking, would you potentially just play small ball and move Asia to the five? What would you? And had they not made this move, do you think that would have been something they might have needed to just try just to put Asia at the five, even though that's something she might not want to do?
If they hadn't made a move to get some more help, they should have just tried everything
Right.
because that's the only way they were going to win. Like they were starting to circle the bowl a little.
Yeah.
And there's so much parity in the WNBA this year that
Yeah.
it doesn't take much for you to slip down those rankings and just be out of it. Um, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Because they're
they
right.
if they had
Even right now, they're still like around 7, 8 seeds. So they're still on the cusp. I think they're still
mhm,
like whoever the ninth team is, they're still like maybe like 2 or 3 games ahead of them. But
sure.
they still like right there on the cusp. It's not like they're just an automatic lock to just make the playoffs, which I think they will. But they the way they're playing, they desperately needed some help. But I just think with Asia, you're gonna be fine. But it's still, man, they depending on where they, like I said, Nalyssa's probably still going. She'll probably end up going to the starting lineup. But I still think, I love what Aaliyah Nye is bringing to them. She's definitely helping them. But I still feel like they need some more consistency. Maybe like one more player to come off that bench. I know they just released Tiffany Mitchell, or Tiffany Mitchell and somebody else they just released. Can't remember who it was, but I think they still need to shore up their bench a little bit more just to be able to like compete with those top teams in the
And
league.
sure, and there's talent that's going to be out there. That we haven't seen the last of the cuts, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And these, players that are getting cut are not end of the bench players. I mean, they're great players. I mean, we've seen that this year. We have a brand new team in the Valkyries that was people's bench players.
Yeah.
They went out
Mhm.
and did this is everybody that wasn't protected. And, minus Seattle. Like they didn't pick anybody from Seattle, but like these are people's like that's a team of six women, basically.
Mhm.
Uh, and they're one of the better teams, up and coming teams in the league right now. I mean,
They
they're
look
ahead of
good.
the Aces if we're talking about rankings, and they do
Hmm.
look really good now, So, I mean, these are the caliber of players that are getting cut on people's teams. Like, there's a lot of talent out there still.
Why do you think, talking about a lot of players being traded and waived, why do you think it is? You don't see that a lot in other leagues. Like, why do you think it's so much of like in the WNBA where you see so many players being waived? And it's just like sometimes it seems like it's just out of the blue. Like you may have a stretch of games where the player may play 4 or 5 games, get a hardship contract, anything, and then next thing you know, they being waived. Why do you think we see that so much in the WNBA?
Something that's a little bit different, I think, is like we saw this with Eurobasket. All these players were leaving their teams for a month basically to go play
Hmm.
overseas on these national teams. And it's just the time of year. I don't think you really see that in other, sports platforms. Like their season is their season, and what they do in the off season is, their time. So, I mean, that's kind of more unique to the WNBA. And so a lot of these hardship contracts did come in that month. These, teams needed to fill their roster spots.
Right.
And a team like the Valkyries, who we'll talk about a little bit more later, got hit pretty hard. Like they had a
Yeah.
lot of international teams that left, and they filled those roster spots, and sometimes they filled them a little too well, And
Hmm.
so now these players are coming back, and some of them just don't have a roster spot to come back to because, like, who filled their spot was performing at a higher clip than they were performing, and so it's kind of a "what have you done for me lately" league a
Yeah.
little bit also. So unfortunately, that's the business side of it, which is great for the talent. People do get a second chance sometimes to come back to these teams and to prove themselves, and some people get a chance to maintain themselves on a radar for other teams and for future opportunities. So
Hmm.
um, and some of it is the level of talent that's out there. I think like some of these teams are like, this player just isn't working out for me. They're not happy. I'm not happy. We've got this person over here that we can sign to a short term. It's almost like hiring somebody part time to maybe give them a full time contract later. You
Right.
know what I mean? Let's just
Mhm.
test the waters and see. And again, good for the players to a certain degree. They get to keep themselves, on the radar of all these teams and management. But yeah, it really does suck when a player comes in to fill a role and does so well, and then just like the cuts have to happen.
Right.
players have been talking about expanding roster sizes too. So shameless
Absolutely.
plug for that.
Definitely think they need to increase the roster spaces. But since we're talking about, players being waived, let's talk about the one that recently came out was Julie Van Loo. I know recently she went, to go overseas and play and represent our country. But I think she helped win the championship. But then I think
Yeah.
I was reading when she had like an 18-hour flight back home, and then she found out she was being waived. Like I said, it's a tough part of the business. But in that situation, do you think that's fair or foul or what happened to Julie Van Loo?
It's it. I was like, no, when it happened, because I do really like Van Loo's game. With that being said, it's wild to go win a gold and come back and 18 hours later you don't have a job.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy to me. But there is a reality. I mean, if you go look at her performance with the Valkyries before she left, albeit, a few games, beginning of the season, brand new team, all of that stuff is kind of, in the mix there. But she wasn't really playing even to her standard,
Mhm.
and really wasn't playing that well. And I think, players stepped up on hardship contracts and that were a little further down in the depth chart. Like late, they brought Chen back, and maybe they just thought that they could get more out of those younger players,
Yeah.
or the new players. And then we talk about this all the time in sports. Like sometimes the most talented player isn't the player that's making the engine run.
Hmm.
Um, Valkyrie's got something special going on right now, and I don't know if it's the mix up of players that they have right now, but they're a good team and they're fun to watch. And unfortunately, when that streak hit, it did not involve a roster with Van Loo on it.
Hmm.
So it might be a little bit of, don't mess a good thing up. So
Yeah. I told you when I was out in LA and I watched them play and that style of play they had against their up and down pace against the Sparks, I was just like, this team they look really good. And this was early in the season. And I was just like,
yeah,
they got a solid core. They got young players, but they got some veterans on their team as well. And they really impressed me. So it's tough. Like I said, you understand the business part of it. And that's the thing. Like you want to go represent your country, but then at the same time, nothing's guaranteed in sports. And we see that all the time. And
yeah,
I'm actually reading Bill Belichick's book right now, The Art of Winning. And he
yeah,
early in the book, he just basically is talking about his principles of like building a team and having the right mentality. But he also said, just because you're a starter, that doesn't necessarily always guarantee you that you're not going to be replaceable. And he
yeah,
straight up put that early on in the book. And we did see that as well, even with Drew Bledsoe being the starter, and then he gets knocked out the game, and Tom Brady takes his spot, and the rest is history with Tom Brady. So it's one of those things in sports is where you 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 never know when it's your time, how long you're gonna be on the team. Like I said, it's a business at the end of the day, and that's the most important thing. Is if like you're not one of those top tier superstars on the team, and even then, that's still not guaranteed at a certain point if you as you get older. So with her,
yeah,
I feel for her. Well, like I said, it's just part of the business and the way that team is playing and how they're putting together these wins. You can't keep everybody. So I definitely feel like it's tough, but like I said, it's a part of the business.
yeah. That sounds like a foul on a personal level because I really like the player and I just, I root for the players. But I mean, if I was on the business end of it, I'm like, all right, like, I don't think it was a shady deal. It was just a tough business decision.
Yeah. Especially if you're not playing well before you leave,
Yeah.
you make it a little bit easier for the team to say, well, she wasn't playing well when she left, and we're still winning without her. Because matter of fact, you remember we had it was we picked one of the games when some of the players started to leave. I think it was did they play Seattle that day? I think it was Golden
You know,
State of
we
Seattle.
we didn't have them losing, and they had a phenomenal game.
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
we ate
So
that
it's
real quick.
yeah. So we missed that one, and
Yeah,
so
don't do not follow us for sports betting.
yeah. it's like you win, you start winning these games, and they're above 500 right now. So it's like, man, when you all right,
They're one game behind Seattle in the West right now.
yeah, and that's gonna be they got a big game coming up. We're gonna talk about a little bit about that later on in the show as well. So, but yeah, it's like one of those things that if you leave that door open and you're not performing
Mm-hmm.
well, it just makes it easy for you to be expendable to a team.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, your girl Salon came back. Yeah,
I
that
like
she was playing
Salon.
right before she left.
Yeah,
And that's a new player. So
yeah,
I think they were like fair. It's just unfortunate. But again, like going back to what we said earlier, on this podcast, that just goes to show you the level of talent that is out there for these teams to still grab.
it
Um,
is. It's
so
a lot of talent. Let's talk about another player. I know last week, they've officially parted ways. Indiana and DeWanna Bonner.
yeah.
She's a free agent now, so she'll be able to, pick the team that she wants to go to compete for a championship. So your thoughts on, her being waived by Indiana, and then what do you think is the best fit for her?
I think this was kind of like a mutually beneficial decision between
Hmm.
her and Indiana. Not really also that surprising when she started missing multiple games for, personal decision and nothing else was coming out. It was kind of like, oh, this is probably a breakup of some sort,
Hmm.
Um, I'm not surprised that they couldn't find a trade partner just because, some of these teams don't want to, move anybody on their roster. And some of them probably don't know where to start.
Right.
So, um, and then if you knew that they're probably going to waive her anyway, why would you give up talent when you could potentially get her for, a vet minimum in a couple more
Hmm.
weeks? So, and
Hmm.
that's kind of like the position she's in now. And truthfully, I kind of like she followed her coach to Indiana. We
Hmm.
see people follow their coaches frequently across sports. So, and I really think that this is kind of a situation of the job she interviewed for was not the job that existed when she showed up on her first day,
Hmm.
and maybe nothing deceitful there even. They were still trying to build a roster. They were figuring themselves out. And as we know, as the season gets deeper and deeper, rosters change. Who you thought might have been a starter, before the season is not a starter. When you get this deep into the season, and that's kind of the situation I think Indiana and Bonner found themselves in. She went there, she wanted to win a championship and she wanted to be a starter. And that just one of those was not a reality the deeper
Right.
into the season that they made their decision. And I think she saw the writing on the wall. And, you know, to Indiana's credit, just letting a player of that caliber go was kind of a solid on their part this early in the season.
Hmm.
Just go find another home. So
Right.
I think it was kind of like the best case scenario for both teams.
Yeah. So I thought, like you said, kind of piggybacking off one of the first things you said, as far as like, when coaches go to a new team, they love to have like at least one or two voices in the locker room that kind of like knows their system and know how they are to kind of like
Yeah.
help with the other players. So I understood it, but then you remember a few weeks ago when we were talking, I was like, I think they're gonna have to figure out what to do with her, because I was like, I don't know at her age if that style of play is conducive to her. It is yeah, she can score the ball, score, but it was just that up and down pace. And I was just like, I wasn't too sure if that was gonna be the right fit for her at this point in her
Sure.
career. So I didn't think it was gonna be this soon, but I was like, they gonna have to figure something out. And then maybe the point of her, coming off the bench or something, she might not be happy about as well. But I definitely saw something was gonna eventually come, just not this soon. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see. Um, I think she probably gonna weigh her options. As far as team wise, that's gonna be interesting to see where she can land, and what role does she really want to play as well on the team. Is she looking to be a starter, or is she looking to come off the bench? I
She's
think
a competitor. I think everybody's always looking to be a starter, but
right, right.
she has proven later in her career that she will come off the bench.
Yeah,
I think that conversation would need to be had for
yeah.
sure.
I think I think she'll probably end up. because even last year when I watched their team, they weren't really in Connecticut. They weren't like an up and down team like Indiana was. They were more like a slower pace team. Yeah, they to me, they weren't the most athletic team. They didn't score a will. They were like a defensive team, but they didn't score a whole lot last year. Like they'll give you some points, but they weren't one of the like top 3 or 4 teams as far as like scoring in the league last year. So I think even for her right now, I think she's probably gonna look at a team like I don't even think Golden State will be a team that will fit her. To me personally, just because of how their style of play is too. Um, maybe Vegas. Vegas will be if there's something.
I mean, before Smith, I would have said Vegas. Vegas does have the money. I mean, if she takes a vet min,
Right.
then she is in most teams' budget.
And like
Um,
I don't love the Aces bench. So I feel like she would be great to
I
come
don't
off the
honestly.
bench.
I don't think there's a single team in the league that couldn't benefit from putting Bonner on their roster. However, um, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some teams that could put her in their starting lineup.
Mm.
you know,
Right.
and the Aces definitely have. They can never had enough new players, in my opinion. So
Yeah. And with the core veterans they have already, I think that will help. I think last week when it was first happened, I saw the two of the teams she was potentially looking at were either Connecticut or Atlanta.
Phoenix,
I mean,
which
not
would be a
not Connecticut. I meant Phoenix. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Phoenix,
good
Phoenix and
storm
Atlanta.
to fight.
Yeah, Phoenix
Yeah,
and Atlanta. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which I mean, other than like her wife being there right now, would be a
Right.
good story. That's where she started her career. So kind of come full circle. Sometimes you love that for a player.
I don't. The way
I don't
Phoenix
know
is
if it'd
playing
be a
though.
good. Yeah, I was like, I don't know if it'd be a good business decision for Phoenix, but it'd be
Yeah,
a good story.
yeah. The way they playing right now. I
Yeah,
don't know if Phoenix would do it.
let the rookies cook. They're doing great.
Yeah, they are. I know. Even though they lost to Vegas a few nights ago, Phoenix they're one of those teams that I didn't see it coming. They
I don't
look.
think anybody did. When you offload as much, like I don't want to say like generational talent, but in some respects it was. As they offloaded, like they lost Diana Taurasi, they lost Brittany Griner,
Yeah.
they lost some like key role players that went to other places. And I don't think anybody really expected them to, bounce back. I mean, they lost, Clouds in New York,
Hmm.
so, yeah,
If
like
if
good.
you if you had to pick a team, you were a GM, what team would you see picking up DeWanna Bonner?
Right now, I'll throw out a team that hasn't been talked about a lot. John Quill Jones can't stay healthy.
That's true. Yeah.
Like she wants to win. There you go. Like I mean, the third best tied for the third best team in the league right now. But I mean, you could do worse than playing with Stewie and Sabrina and Cloud. You
Yeah.
know, like um, yeah, she'd definitely be coming off the bench once John Quell came back. But I mean,
Yeah.
she's been in and out of the lineup. She's been kind of dealing with her injury throughout the season, and unfortunately, that will probably aggravate her as time goes on. But to have somebody, like a Bonner, you have Phoebus that just came back. Like they have a phenomenal bench.
Hmm.
I they would get rid of to put her in there because Burke has been playing really well. Sabali has been playing very well. Um, but yeah, I mean, just to throw out a name that hasn't already kind of been
Yeah.
tossed out there.
I think man, that would be a good if you want to compete and win for a chance to win the championship. New York
Sure.
definitely fit. I just say to me, I say the Aces though, just because
Yeah,
of the lack of depth on their bench. That's the team instantly that just came to my mind. Yeah, I know they said Atlanta was potentially another, but if she goes to Atlanta, she's definitely gonna come off the bench because you're not
yeah,
gonna start over Alicia Gray or Ryan Howard, and then you got Brittany Griner and Jones down in the paint. So she's not gonna start there. So to me, the Aces will be just like the clear cut team that I
sure.
see that she can go
She's
ahead and
4 hours away from Phoenix.
yeah.
So that would probably be a win-win situation for both player and team. So
Yes, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm pretty sure she'll weigh her options before,
Sure.
she decides to make her move. But let's go ahead and we're gonna take a quick break and then we'll be right back. This is Cross the Line Sports. Welcome back to Cross the Line Sports. Back with Nicole. Now I know we get ready to talk about the All-Star starters. So Nicole, I'll go ahead and let
Yeah.
you list the starters because we've been having some conversations about this off air. Let's go ahead and get into it though.
Yeah, sure. The captains are Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier. And then after that is Alicia Gray, Sabrina, Paige, Aaliyah Boston, Nneka Ogwumike, Satu Sabali, Stewie, and Asia.
Okay.
So that's your starters. And then we'll figure out who the reserves are on Sunday. Because coaches vote on that.
Mhm. So with the captains, pretty much like the NBA was doing a couple years ago, like the players will get to pick who they want on their team, correct? Same way.
Yeah, so it seems like Caitlin will get the first pick and then Fee, and then it'll go
He
back and forth,
he
which
probably
will be
going to Leah
interesting.
first. Caitlin probably going to Leah first.
Yes, I do think that she's going to be a homer and pick her teammate, like a good teammate. However, that means that Asia and Fee are going to be on the same team.
Ooh, that's tough.
So you got to pick your poison. Pick your
Yeah,
poison there.
but you gotta pick your teammate first though. It's
Yeah,
only
that's like I wouldn't blame her. I can
yeah.
definitely see it. She said she was picking her teammates too, so you gotta.
And Aaliyah, she can hold her own now. It ain't like she a
Oh
slouch.
yeah, for
She can
sure.
def
Yeah, no,
she can definitely hold her own. So it's
it's just the crazy reality that we are going to see what a team looks like with Nafisa Collier and Asia
to,
Wilson, two
to me
MVPs.
to me the two best players in the league on the same team.
Yeah,
So man, that's gonna be
you better
interesting.
ask for some WNBA luck if you want to win that one, and that's
Yeah, that's gonna be fun to watch. So when you see the list of the starters for the 10 starters, like are you happy with the starters that you see, or is there anybody you think missed out?
I mean, there are going to be players that I think missed out, but there's only a limited amount of spots,
Hmm.
So, um, I know last time when we did our voting, our personal voting, when the voting was open, we were like, you get all the way down to 25 plus before you start even thinking about whether somebody should be, get a vote or not. Like
Hmm.
the depth is just crazy. So yeah, I mean, I think like Alyssa Thomas isn't on there. Um, there's definitely like Ryan Howard isn't on there. Like there's crazy
Yeah.
talented players that probably will be on the roster, the total rosters. I mean, the coaches will probably vote a lot of these players in, but the reality is some of them are going to be left out too.
Yeah.
There's just not enough spots, even after the reserves are chosen to pick everybody that's deserving of being called an all star. So
Let me start by saying I think all the players are well deserved of being all stars, but a starter, the one for me that I'm kind of like it just like she definitely playing well, but just as a starter was Paige for me. Just for
really,
the amount of games I had Jackie when we first
sure,
talked about
yeah,
this. I had Jackie as a
sure,
starter. So if anything, is no hate or nothing anything against Paige, but I would have had Jackie over her. And like I said, you know me, last time we talked about it, I said, I even though they're not playing their best, I still have to reward winning to a certain extent. And to me,
sure,
they have a better record, and Jackie is a super critical part of that team. I
yeah,
think
sure,
to me,
absolutely,
I think she's the second best player on the team. And
yeah.
I think for me, I would have had Jackie as the all-star starter over Paige.
Well, and the media would have agreed with you because they
Mhm.
had her ranked ninth. So
And like I said, Paige, she's missed some games now.
yeah,
So not saying that she doesn't deserve to be an all-star, but like you said, best ability is a availability. And for
yeah, sure.
me, I don't know if I would have put Paige in the starting lineup, but like I said, that fan popularity does help as well.
It does, and I'm looking at like where she. I mean, she was second in fan rankings. So, fan
Mhm.
rankings carry some players to the promised land,
And right,
So
right behind who was number one in the fan
Caitlin
voting?
Clark, the fans are going to show up for Caitlin. So,
Oh yeah, she definitely gonna get in regardless
yeah,
of
which
what.
is what she's a captain, really, so
Mhm. Cause
her.
she yeah. Man, we were talking about this right before we got back on air, but the Caitlin Clark being ranked ninth by the player voting.
Yeah.
I you
I
I
brought
need
it
to hear
up
the
because,
names. Let me hear the names. Go ahead and read the names because this is something I was like, all right, now there's some pettiness going on. And I love the players, I love the ladies in the league. I follow them, I support them. But ninth is a little crazy. So I gotta hear the names first before I go on.
of how, like, what we have for, like, other players that were ranked ahead of her.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Alicia Gray,
Okay.
uh, Sabrina, who is
Okay.
having a crazy season. So good for
Okay.
her. Skylar,
Mhm.
Cloud. I mean, that's potential defensive player of the year. Cloud's having a good season.
Mhm.
Paige, which I know you're going to be salty about because you didn't even think she should be on this.
Yeah.
So, with this information I'm looking at now, I will also say that it looks like Cloud and Paige are co-ranked in fourth. Don't know if that was like a typo on this or if that's actual because there's no fifth. So they either way, like they're right there together. Kelsey Mitchell.
Okay.
So put a pin in that one because that means that she isn't even the best player on her team at this point. That means
Mm.
so, yeah. And then Brittany Sykes, who, you know, the receipts are I like voted for her in my own rankings. I think she's kind of having an
I'm not putting her
underrated.
over Caitlin though. I'm sorry. I can't do that one.
Sure, yeah. I mean, now we're getting into like seventh, eighth, ninth, tenth. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
these ladies are all kind of bunched together. I don't really see an eighth on here, and then Caitlin Clark is ninth. So, yeah. The other person that's on here that I didn't mention, I mean, they had Kelsey Plum ranked 16th. The media and fans have her rated sixth.
Mm.
So if you want to see somebody that was perhaps shaded even more by her peers,
Yeah, that's
I
tough.
know that I bring that up as, you
16th,
going to
yeah,
LA.
16th is a little crazy for Kelsey Plum to be
Yeah. I mean,
16th.
you've seen her, you've spoken to her. We all know what she's capable of. Yeah. So that's perhaps the biggest discrepancy in the rankings, I think, because the fans and the media were like sixth, like top 10, and the players ranked her 16th. So,
So you
um, yeah. And then Jackie, the fans ranked her 10th. Um, the media ranked her ninth, and the players ranked her 12th. So,
mm, that's a little that's still a little low for to me for Jackie to be 12th, that's low with the players.
yeah.
That's that's mm,
But I mean, I know we were kind of talking about this offline. The players are doing the same thing that we do as fans. Like the teams roll out, these are the all stars that you could vote for our team. And you're going to go up there and, I live in New York now. So I'm going to be like, Cloud, Stewie, Sabrina. All right. What other spots do I have left? If I'm a New York fan, that's what I'm doing. That's what Indiana fans are doing. That's what Phoenix fans are doing. Across the league, fan bases are doing fan base things. And these players aren't any different. They're voting for their teammates.
yeah.
Like,
But see,
so
my issue is like a player like Cloud, a really good player, she doesn't carry the responsibility of a Caitlin Clark. She doesn't. She's probably maybe the third, fourth best player on her own team.
yeah, which is crazy
That's
because
what it,
she could be a
yes.
the number one player on some other teams. But yeah,
So she's over Caitlin. I disagree with that one. Skylar's playing well. She's playing very well. And and
yes.
and they're winning. So I really wouldn't be mad at that one. Cloud doesn't have the
Sure.
responsibility of Caitlin. So I don't like that one. Paige has missed a fair number of games. And for her to be fourth and Caitlin to be ninth, I disagree with that one. Psych.
I mean,
I,
I think Paige might be getting some of the same treatment that Caitlin Clark got at this point in the season
no, I
last
don't
year.
think it's the same as last year. No, it's no way.
I mean, Caitlin wasn't really good at this point in the season last year.
She caught on, but what I'm saying is
Yes,
I don't think
she needed a break. She
she
was
didn't
tired.
she's not catching as much backlash as Caitlyn did though.
No, but I
And
mean, again, she didn't. That wasn't her calling card in college either. So she didn't come into the league all of that hoopla, if you
but
will.
it just I don't know. I think the
I will
cloud
say, like, you can debate Paige. I will say she quietly did become the fastest player to 200 points, 50 like rebounds, 50 assists ever.
mhm.
So, like,
But
she's having a
and
better season.
I'm not knocking it, and I think she worthy of being all star. Not mad at it at all, but I guess I'm just trying to figure out like as far as like, of course the fans gonna have their votes, but then amongst the peers, do you feel like the players right now are saying if they had to choose right now, would they would take Paige over Caitlyn as like a better player?
That's what the data shows. I mean,
I'm
it's kind of hard to
I'm not
argue
gonna
that,
do it.
like, obviously there are players that wouldn't subscribe to that, and there are players that would. But if she's ninth, the reality exists that there were players that left her off of their list entirely, which is what brought the average down.
That's crazy though. So if you had to choose right now, would you say she's a better player than Caitlyn?
If I am play like if I'm picking my teammate, I'd probably pick Paige, but it might not necessarily be off of talent.
So what what do you base it off of? Because talent wise, I'm taking Caitlyn. And I
I
don't get
mean,
me wrong, I
yeah,
like Paige. Paige is nice. She
yeah,
nice.
yeah. No, I love both players. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, they're
Like,
both
I
good.
like these are first world problems if I'm picking who's going
Yeah,
to carry me, and on the court. So, like, what any feedback or anything I say here, like, I'm a fan of both players.
I'm likewise.
Yeah. I will say, I'm like, Caitlin is again leading the league in turnovers.
Mhm.
Um, and then she's not having a good three this year. Like,
Mhm.
it's not falling. It's under 30%.
Mhm.
And, for somebody like she can do a lot of other things for her team. Like, she's a phenomenal when it comes to assists. Like, she can score in other ways, or she has a great team. Like, she has great teammates. So she can, when she's having an off night, there are people that will step up and
Mhm.
pull them across the finish line. So, um, yeah, and to facilitate that is still like something that she's really good at. But she's her calling card is not there this year. She's turning the ball over at a pretty high clip, and she's missed like half of the season.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's
you can't, if you're hurt, you're hurt. You can't. She wants to be out there, like, you can't help
mhm.
that. But I mean probably is a factor. Like, again, going back to what we said about Paige earlier too, the best ability is availability sometimes. So,
Mhm. Indiana,
and that's not
Indiana
to say
is.
she's having a crap season. She's still having a good season, but
Mhm. Man, I just can't deny the fact of what Caitlyn, when she's out there, she plays what, like I said, her shooting is down, but she
yeah,
does so many other things very well. And man, she's, I don't know, just to see for her to be ranked ninth is a little excessive to me at this point for what she's doing. And I know, like you
yeah,
say, she's missing a lot of games, but man, when she's out there, and when she's not out there, it's a different team. I mean, I know they won the tournament last night, but I don't know, something about those rankings though. It's just like for her to be ninth is, man, I don't see how,
yeah,
especially considering they're both missing games, and to be that much of a gap with fourth and ninth between those two. That's what I'm like. What are the players really basing it off of? is it skill set
Sure.
or just like your feelings towards this player? Like, what is it, or did
It
you like?
might be. I mean, she hasn't really, and I mean, I'll kind of like put that out there. Like, she hasn't gotten more personable this year. So
Right.
maybe, that's, it might just be getting old. As far as like the fans, we eat that up.
Oh yeah.
Players don't always feel the same way. So,
She's been in a couple of little scrums already this year. So
yeah. And like ones that players are like, I mean, players are like, you got to do what you got to do, but some of them are also like, come on, man. Like that was dramatic.
what do you think it is that kind of I don't think all the players dislike her or whatever. What do you think it
No,
is that make some of the players like I guess not care for her as much? Do you think it's the trash talking or do you think it's more than just trash talking? Like what is it that doesn't sit well with some of
players
the
like
players?
players like Tarazi, and Tarazi was the biggest trash talker,
Mhm.
in probably the history of the game so far. I think they're a little bit exhausted of it. I watch like sometimes her body language on the court, and I'm like, come on, man. It's kind of like when things are going good, she's great.
Yeah.
And then when things aren't, like, she's like, I'd rather not
Yeah.
be here
I
anymore.
saw a clip like that before too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this isn't reserved for her. You see this with players that have been the best on their team at almost every avenue or, juncture in their entire life. And then they get to a point where like it's not, all great, and they just don't know how to function in that role. So it happens. I mean, she does have an attitude. Sometimes you love that from your players.
Mhm.
I mean, players don't always love it from each other, but it
Right.
exists. She does have, and sometimes it's just personality too, but it's definitely there. Whether you like her or you don't like her,
Right.
it's not really a debatable thing. She definitely has an attitude, and it's definitely, you know, written some checks this season.
Oh
So
yeah. I think it's
might be a little annoyed at that.
because when you watch her, it's like she says all the right things in front of the cameras, but it's like I said, it's probably like more so on the court, the trash talking, some of the other things. But I haven't really
Yeah,
seen any of her like teammates say anything negative about her. Like I haven't seen
I
any of
feel
that.
like, and I say this with a player that I really like that was also involved in some things this season. Sophie Cunningham is the same way. If you
Yeah,
play with her, love her. If you don't play with her, you couldn't care for her.
yeah. And I saw she
It's
was
just
right
one of
there.
those.
She stood up for
Yeah,
Caitlin. Yeah.
I'm saying like, but again, every team that she's gone on, like you remember years ago, her and Copper got into it
Mm.
in the middle of a game when she was on Phoenix and Copper was still in Chicago. That's like an iconic picture and everything. Then they became teammates and they were cool. You know,
Mhm.
like, they were going out together. They were, having a great time together. It's sometimes players and personalities are just like that. When you play for them or play with them, that's your best friend. And when you don't, that's your worst enemy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
so,
But like I
but
said, and I just want to be clear, like it's I love Paige game. I think she's
yeah,
nice.
for sure.
But to me, I was just like, I don't know about her being a starter. All star very well deserved, but a starter, like I said, me personally, when we did
Yeah.
first did voting, I had Jackie Young in my starting lineup over Paige.
I
So
wouldn't have been mad at that either. Like, she's an awesome player, definitely deserving. So,
absolutely. So let's move on to the next subject. Speaking of Indiana, last night they won the Commissioner's Cup without Caitlin. Upset over Minnesota, which was definitely a surprise, like I said. So looking at how everything is shaping up right now, I know early on we were talking about the two best teams being New York and Minnesota, like by far. But from right now, what do you see from what you see? Like, who would you say is like the best team in the league?
oof. Um, I mean, by by ranking, it still is those two. The Dream, to me, they keep getting better. And every now and then I'll be like, oh, who are you? Like going through the little imposter syndrome here. But when
Mm-hmm.
they're good, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the Mercury, again, like
They look
they're
good.
just out there. Yeah, they're young, they're quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they have good, similar to the Valkyries, honestly. I think that they just play really good team ball.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and that's like exciting. So, I mean, kind of like new faces in the running. Um, but yeah, like, I mean, the Liberty are always going to be the team to beat because you always have to beat the champs, you know.
Right.
But you know, outside of the Liberty and the Lynx, it really, to me, would be the Dream and the Mercury. Although, like, the Valkyries keep playing like they're playing, I think they're going to climb up in there pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But
I still say the two best teams are Minnesota and New York. To me, those are the two best teams. New York, they just got to get healthy. They definitely miss Jonquel Jones. They miss
yeah,
her. And for me, I'm still watching Minnesota. I think they're a great team, but my biggest issue with them is I just think they a little undersized, and I think it's going to come back to hurt them. I think if they don't get a big, they might catch some trouble. Like they last week they played Atlanta and it went into overtime and they won. But if you have to play Atlanta for like in a 5 game series, and you got to go against those bigs over the course of that 5 game series, that's a lot of wear and tear on your players, and you got to be unless you're just making a lot of threes, and it might come back to hurt them. So I think they
sure.
still need to get a big. They got out rebounded again. Minnesota got out rebounded again last night against Indiana. To me, that's my only thing with them is just the size. I think they're undersized, but with to me, that's still probably like the best team. Them in New York, if New York can get help, that's gonna be the thing with New York is can they stay afloat just to see kind of like where they'll stay when Jones comes back. Is how far
Yeah.
up or down do they slide in the rankings right now?
Yeah. I will say, like, you know, I went to the Liberty Mercury game. That was an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to see those two teams like live. And again, like what we were talking about earlier, the Liberty they have to fix that starting slow problem. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. They just kind of like put the thing in cruise and, you know, get up to speed. They don't like start fast out of the gate.
Right.
Um, and I think that, you know, as you are playing some of these better teams like Atlanta or a Mercury, or even, I mean, I've seen them play the Valkyries. Like sometimes they'll squeak it out and sometimes they won't, but you can't be in, you know, now you got 5 minutes left in the game and you guys are tied. Like, especially without somebody like Jones, like, you know, you're just hoping that enough shots fall at that point.
The thing that speaking of Atlanta, the thing that alarms me with Atlanta that I don't like is they're a talented team, but they lose games that they should win. Like a Connecticut, I believe they lost to Chicago. It's like the teams that you would pencil them in. It's like even though we know they're all pros, it's like the teams that you think they're like, all right, this is gonna be a win for them. That's when they'll
Little
go.
trap games.
Yeah, the trap games they go out and lay an egg. That's what bothers me about
Yeah.
Atlanta. But if they can put together like a solid game, and like I think they got a big game coming up this week as well. Is can they show up for them? And then really, can you show up for the games that you really should handle your business in the games that you should? Well, that's what kind of like worries me by Atlanta because I think they lost like 6 games right now. But really, at this point, they should only have maybe three, 4 losses so
Needs
on
to
the
play
season.
knockout more. So they need to take a note from across the league and let their rookie play a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. Because she's been playing very well for them, shooting the ball well.
Yeah.
So,
Gives them something different. Like,
mhm.
you know, whether they keep her coming off the bench and just do it more frequently, you know, I don't know what you do there because they do have like an insanely talented roster, but like she needs more minutes.
Absolutely. And the thing, I don't know what it is, but Brittany Griner just 1 minute she plays well, and then it's like she doesn't have that motor every night. And then when you
Yeah,
look at her numbers, I think she was averaging like 9 and 5. Like that's not good enough at all. Not for Brittany
yeah,
Griner.
sure. Yeah. And I think we thought that we were going to see a little bit of a resurgence, new team, kind of fresh start. And some nights we do see that. And sometimes, we kind of see the tail end of the Phoenix Mercury, Brittany Griner. So
Mhm.
I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, she got to pick it up because, like I said, if they want to go far in the playoffs and make a deep run, she's gonna have to play well, especially if you have one of those games where Howard and Alicia Gray kind of like struggle, and you need to get the ball inside to her and Jones. Like Brittany
Yeah.
Griner, she gotta, and there's no way she should only be averaging like 5 rebounds. It's
Yeah.
there's not no
For sure.
excuse at all for
Yeah.
that.
I mean, if you go into, some of these places or, teams are great at rebounding, like she's probably going to get even less. Like some of those teams you just got to want it more because they're young and, you
Exactly.
know, so
It's gonna come
yeah.
down to matchup, style of play, whoever
Hmm.
Atlanta plays in the playoffs. I think a team like I think they could really push unless New York makes a move. I think they could really push New York just because they so small. I mean, not New York. I mean Minnesota. They could push Minnesota because they're small. New York will probably give them a harder time just because of the weapons that they have, especially if
A
Jones.
healthy control. Hmm.
Yeah, if she comes back healthy, they would definitely have a hard time with her. But I mean, with New York. But other than that, Atlanta is like one of those teams. Like I said, if they are playing well and playing on all cylinders, plus when you get to the playoffs, you're playing the best of the best anyway. But
Hmm.
New York is like right. I mean, Atlanta is like right there with them. But like, don't sleep on Golden State either. Golden State,
Yeah.
Golden
If
State
they
can
keep
really be
playing
a
how they've
problem.
been playing recently, like they're going to be probably by the next time we have this conversation, they will have climbed up into the top three,
I like Golden State. I think they can be like if you got New York and you got New York and Minnesota as the top two teams. Help just assume everybody's healthy. You got New York, Minnesota. Those two can go either way. And then you got Atlanta and Phoenix. And then Golden State could be right there in that mix as well, depending on, once they get everybody back and get everything, rolling, they can be a team that's gonna really, depending on who they match up with, they could really cause some problems.
yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, Golden State is the blueprint for how to do you know, brand like a expansion team, right? So,
Yeah. I just love that core of like the veterans, the young players that they have, and that up and down style of play. That's a, every team can't do that. So like a Atlanta, they would have a hard time, with that type of pace. Atlanta would just have to try to beat them up on the inside, but the Golden State
they
is
have
gonna be one of
depth
those.
too. They have depth.
They do.
So,
Yep. They can
like
run.
they have a better bench than some teams that have been around for a minute. Like
Hmm.
that's wild. But
So it's
good for
gonna
them. Gotta love
definitely
it.
gonna be interesting. We got a couple more topics before we get out of here. The league is continuing to expand. We have Toronto coming up next year, I believe, and then they just
Mhm.
added Cleveland. It was Cleveland, Philly, and who was the Detroit?
Detroit.
Detroit. What are your thoughts about the expansion of the WNBA?
I love it. I mean, we, a common through line in these conversations is how much talent is still left out there.
Hmm.
I mean, we got talent overseas that hasn't even come back yet. So, um, definitely need more teams. I think this is a conversation that'll come up in the CBA too, is expanding the roster size by like one or two spots as well. I would like to see that kind of before some of these expansions, but they're spaced out, and with the new CBA happening like now, I can definitely see hopefully it becoming a thing. I know there was a lot of buzz about the locations.
Hmm.
Um, Sophie Cunningham kind of got in hot water about saying like, I don't know if players are really going to want to go to Cleveland or Detroit,
Mm.
but so there is a lot of like recent conversation about the locations. I mean, so Cleveland, Detroit, Philly, Kansas City. Nashville, and St. Louis all had a bid in,
I
and
wonder why
Cleveland
Houston didn't put a bid in. Cause you remember the
really
Comets
won.
used you,
I don't know.
you would have thought they made. I would have
Yeah, and
loved
the
to see
fans
one in
want it
Charlotte.
every time. Yeah, every time I see a thread about, hey, where would you like to see a new WNBA expansion? Like Charlotte's always in there. Bring Back the Comets is always in there. Like the
Hmm.
fans want those locations, so I
Right.
don't know why the bid isn't in there. But those 6 locations were the bids this time around. And then we have Toronto coming up, the Tempo, and Portland. Uh, there's a lot of interesting things going on with that Portland team right now, but they will be the next one. And then after that is Cleveland, Detroit, and Philly.
Yeah.
So,
Charlotte, I would have loved to seen them to get a team, man. Especially the way that this area is growing down here, man. Charlotte would have been it'd have been great. And like I said, Houston, the franchise, the run they had when the league first began, you would have loved
sure.
to see them, bring in but like I said, I'm happy to see that the league is growing, more opportunities for these ladies because it's like
How do you feel about the locations?
mm,
You share Sophie's sentiment on locations, or
I'm not mad at Detroit. Cleveland, I guess is it what are the numbers are saying? Is it showing that they're gonna have a really solid fan base there or
so? This is my unofficial theory on why they went with like these locations. I mean, Philly's kind of a given. Like nobody's like poo pooing Philly. Philly is going to have a good fan base, you know. Um, like there, I mean, obviously there's history with Cleveland and Detroit, so they were kind of in that mix for that reason too. And why I think that they were kind of chosen over a Nashville. It was going to be like the Nashville Summits, you know, which is an awesome, you know, hat tip to Pat. And then Kansas City, St. Louis usually have really good fan bases for
mm-hmm.
sports. You know, I think that both of those locations would have adopted a team pretty well. So I think honestly, Portland messed it up for the 3 locations that didn't get chosen. If
Mm-hmm.
they were more desirable locations, and kind of the reason I have that theory is, as I said a few minutes ago, Golden State is kind of like the blueprint for how to do it right.
Absolutely.
But the Valkyries are owned by the same person that owns the Warriors. So, how to market a team and how to build a team, they were already familiar with, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so we saw that it was like they picked a coach early, they had the GM, they had their marketing rolling out early. You could get merch early before, you know, like you could get it the summer before they even started almost, you know, like they had all this stuff like Ball Holla, like was out there, like they have like a signature move, like everything is out there and you see it like fans are packing that place. You know, they have celebrities showing up, like people have bought into this team and it's good, you know. Um, Portland is the antithesis of that. You know, the person or the 2 individuals, the siblings that got the bid for Portland, who doesn't even have a team name yet, um, are the same that they have no experience in basketball.
Crazy.
They just bought the NWSL, the Portland Thorns, like 9 months ago or something. So they have no experience in professional sports. They have a limited experience at this point in it with the NWSL, and they have none. They were like minority owners in the Sacramento Kings. That's their experience in
Right.
basketball up to this point. They have no GM, no support staff, no coach chosen. We don't even have a name, so no marketing.
Nothing.
Um, you know, and they're like, we're supposed to start camp in like 9 months.
It's that's crazy.
So,
That is
you
crazy.
know, I honestly think the WNBA looked at that and was like, you know, for our next 3, well, I mean, what's going on with Toronto? The Raptors owner that owns them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is the owner of the Raptors. So they had that and they were like, you know what? The next 3 are going to be owners of NBA teams.
And you know,
You know, they're
I was just thinking that maybe because they already have like NBA teams in some of these cities, that's why it's making it a little bit more little easier for them to get those teams that are
yeah,
like Cleveland, Detroit, maybe
yeah.
because of that.
I think Portland. I think maybe they would have gone with some of these other options, um, but I think Portland kind of messed it up for them. So
Yeah.
I think while the WNBA is rolling out these new teams, they wanted to go with more structure and kind of more experience with the marketing because they have two examples now. The Valkyries with the NBA owner, they already knew, how to do everything. And Portland, who's just kind of, flailing in the wind right now, it seems like,
Yeah.
unfortunately. It's such a shame because Portland is such a loyal fan base. Their NWSL fan base is phenomenal and they will adopt the WNBA team, but they got to get it together.
Absolutely. Nicole, let's take one more break and then we'll come back. We're going to do some game picks. So everybody stay tuned. This is Cross the Line Sports. Welcome back to Cross the Line Sports. Back with Nicole once again. We are getting ready to wrap up. But before we get out of here, we are going to do some game picks. So tomorrow night, it's no games tonight. Today is Wednesday, but tomorrow they're back in action. The ladies are back in action with some big games Thursday night. This one, 7 o'clock p.m. on Prime, on Amazon Prime. Big game, Aces and Fever. Nicole, who you got?
Oof. I'm gonna go with the Fever. If this was in 2 weeks, I probably would have picked the Aces though. I just don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Fever. They're on a roll right now too, so they were fun to watch last night.
Yeah. They had a big win. Not I'm gonna take the Aces in this one just because I'm not sure if Caitlin's gonna play. Uh I know they coming up Fever coming off from a very big win.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, my decision was like, oh, I don't know if how much Nalyssa's going to be in the lineup.
that's
So,
true too. And
you know,
I need to check my email to see if they sent me an update. They'll probably send one by tomorrow. Well, I know they'll send one by tomorrow, whether she'll be playing in tomorrow night's game. So that'll be interesting to see. But I'll go ahead and take the Aces.
yeah,
Because you still got Asia, still got Jackie. You know what's something I
you're right.
meant to ask you though, before we go back to these game picks? If it were up to you, because she's not playing well to me, would you consider trading Jewel Lloyd? At least just the thought of it, like maybe we need to try to move her.
Oof. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't mind shopping,
Right.
but what are you going to get for her? Not that like there's plenty of teams that could, Jewel is still a great player, but yeah, it's a weird year for her.
It is. I would
And
at
are
least,
teams going to give you value based on potential, or are they going to give you value based off of this year?
yeah, that's true too. I think you can get something for her. What would it be? I'm not sure, but it's like she just doesn't fit with them for whatever reason. I mean, it's still early. It's a long way to go, but she's not playing well at all. Um,
They miss KP for sure. That was not. I know people thought that like, oh, KP, just plug in Jewel Lloyd, like great players, it'll be all right, and it's not.
it
They
don't
miss
always
KP.
work that way. Yeah, they definitely miss her. Man, I would at least consider it though. But like you still got Jackie. I think you could get at least uh solid role. Man, I would swap out, like you said, we've been mentioning her several times. I would swap out for Marina Mabry. Would
Yeah,
Connecticut do that?
I would love to see Mabry get out of there. She's still holding it down. She's
Yeah.
trying,
But
but
I don't think the Aces are gonna move her though. I think they're gonna, keep her for this year, especially just because of who she is and what she's accomplished. I don't think they
yeah,
want to have that type of reputation of, shipping out a player of that caliber that soon.
that are yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
So I think they're gonna hang on to it, but at least consider it. But with Nalyssa Smith, we'll see how everything shapes up. Next game, you got the Sparks and the Liberty.
Liberty. I don't know what's going on with the Sparks. They should be better than they're playing.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
pieces.
I'm almost getting ready to, we did hot takes the last time. I'm almost ready to jump off this bandwagon. I had the Sparks going to the playoffs, but I'm almost I got one foot
And you
off.
weren't wrong for thinking that at the time. Like the roster that they had, like sure,
They got the
they're not
talent.
living up.
They got the
Absolutely.
talent. It's just I just wasn't when they played Golden
Hired
State that
Lisa
Friday
Leslie.
night, just the coaching, I just wasn't too thrilled about the coaching. I don't know if they really buy into what she's preaching. And then when is Cameron Brink coming back?
Yeah,
And
yeah. They
that's
could use her. Sure.
that's what I'm saying. Like when is she coming back?
They're
Because
getting Ray back, so hopefully that's something. She had a really good, like they were excited about her, but like how long is that going to take to work her back in? Coming off an injury.
yeah,
So
because at some point now it's starting to get a little late in the season. You're moving
yep.
towards that halfway point. All right, we need to see what this team is going to look like. Because once she Brent comes back, you still need time to gel. So man, I got one foot off.
And you're starting to wonder if Lisa Leslie interviewed for them.
Yeah, I think she did, and
You too.
I think she
I know
did.
we
And
already talked about this,
yeah,
but
I think she
yeah,
definitely did.
the
This
the
could,
coaching tenure of Lisa Leslie is going to haunt some of them teams
yeah,
for quite some time.
man. I think, hey, you know what? Depending on how this thing shapes up this year, if they just fall completely off and only win maybe like 10 games this season, I wouldn't be surprised if they make another coaching change because it's too much talent. And
And
the
it's LA.
Lakers
Like,
is exactly it's LA.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can't be floundering in a big market like that,
exactly.
especially
So
when teams are getting better. So
getting better and better. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm looking to see how this one turns out. You got the Storm and the Atlanta Dream tomorrow.
yeah, I have this one circled. This is
This is
a
a
good
big
one.
game.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Storm.
Okay. I'm taking Atlanta. I
Okay,
just, like I said, I love what they have on the wings with Gray
yeah,
and Howard. Man, that's one of the best duos in the league. And then I, in the paint, you got Jones and Brittany Griner. Whatever Brittany Griner just brings to the table, if she can just turn that motor on, and Jordan Canada, Tahina Pow, I I like that team, man. I think,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
this is the type of game that they'll win. A game they know it's a big matchup.
This is a playoff game.
It is,
Honestly,
and
this is
this
a playoff. This should be. We're gonna talk it up, and that's gonna be a dud, right?
yeah. But
But
it
this should be a glimpse into what a playoff game could look like.
yep, and this is the type of game like two potential playoff teams. So this is the type of game Atlanta probably will show up for. But if it's somebody like a Dallas or somebody else, th- they just go out and lay an egg. So that's gonna be
Yep.
interesting. Another game tomorrow night. You got the Mercury and the Wings. We'll go ahead and pick this one as well.
I'm going with Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix. I shouldn't even have to ask that one. Phoenix.
I
Yeah,
will say, I know you were kind of high on Dallas earlier this season. They look like they're starting to figure some things out, to their credit.
you know
But
what? After I jumped off the bandwagon, it looked like they started to put something together, but I'm still
yeah,
off the bandwagon. I ain't going
not as
back.
far. But I would say there is a little more hope than when we had that conversation.
Yeah, they looking a lot better. Lynx and Mystics tomorrow night.
It's hard to vote against the Lynx.
Right. Yeah.
It really is hard. The Mystics have been a surprisingly decent team, though.
Hmm.
They're kind of sneaky good. So
I'm gonna pick a couple more games. This one is Saturday. Valkyries and Lynx. That's gonna be a good game.
yeah. Well, I just said that, and I'm going to go with the Valkyries for this one.
Dang. You know what? I was gonna. You know what? I'm taking the Valkyries too. I think they gonna. Man, it's hard to bet against Minnesota, but I'm gonna take Valkyries as well for that game. They're starting. Is everybody back now, or are they?
Yeah,
Okay, yes.
everybody's back from Europe now.
So now it's just a matter of them, kind of like putting it all together again. But man, this
Yeah,
that Golden State team is.
but they're getting better. Like Salon's back. You know, I mean,
Yeah, we got.
she was playing great before.
Two more games we're gonna pick. This is Sunday. Storm and Liberty.
Hmm. I'll go with the Liberty for this one. I don't like it, but just gonna. I already picked the Storm once.
You know what?
That's
They
my.
actually New York is at home too.
Hmm.
So you say you taking the Storm?
No, I picked the Storm for another one. I'm gonna go with the Liberty, especially
Okay.
if they're at home. I might go to that game. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm gonna take I'm taking the Liberty in that game. Like I said, they just got to find a way to get healthy, but I think they still got enough. It's plenty of talent on their team, to to take on the Storm. I do want to see the Storm play in person. I'm a big fan of Noelle Quinn, man. I just like the way she just always seems so poised and calm and collected on the sideline. So I would love to
Yeah.
see her play coach one day. Um, but yeah, I'm going with the Liberty in that game, and then the last one we're gonna pick is gonna be Chicago and Minnesota. This is Sunday. So Minnesota actually has what, 3 games in like a Thursday, Friday, 3 games in 4 days from
It's tough.
Thursday to Sunday. That's a
Yeah,
lot. That's a lot
it
of
is.
basketball.
I'm still gonna pick them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Yeah,
It is, but I mean that is kind of what the players were talking about. Like, dog, this schedule, we got to do something or expand the roster by, two spots or something.
yeah, 3 games in 4 days. That's a tough stretch, but
I mean, shooting's down across the league right now. We're
yeah.
getting at this point in the season, players are tired.
And this is the type of game, you know what? That game against Chicago, that's the type of game it's gonna be, man. When you play Chicago, you're gonna have to be ready to bang down low with Cardoso
Yeah, they're
and
tough.
Angel Reese.
They're struggling in the win loss column, but they're tough.
And Angel Reese, she been balling lately. She had a really good game. What was it? Sunday when
This
they
is this is the like that's what I thought I was going to see more from her in this season. I thought that she was
hmm
going to go in the off season, and there were plenty of reports about her like putting in the work and working out with these great players and stuff. And maybe she's starting to put it together now.
Yeah.
So
So and it's like she's playing a little point forward with her, letting her, handle the ball a little bit, getting down
yeah,
here. She's been playing a lot better. But this is one of the games, like I said, I'll be paying attention to that game because, like I said, I'm with Minnesota. That's one of the things that kind of scares me, just like how undersized they are. And against Chicago,
it could be a trap game for sure.
yeah, Chicago can be one of those
Especially
teams.
it's like that's the last stop in their stretch too. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Chicago could get one. They're not scrubs. They could get one
yeah,
for
and they
sure.
and
I
they,
just
they
it's
like
not
to
good.
bang down low. So tell me that's the one thing I think the Achilles heel of Minnesota. Great team, but undersized, which they won't. They probably 9 times out of 10. I don't think they're gonna have to see Chicago in the playoffs. Just because I don't think Chicago got enough this year to
I don't
make
think they
a
have the
run.
juice this year.
Yeah, I don't see it being this year. But so
Yeah,
we got some interesting picks, and I'll make sure I save this paper and tally everything up by the end. So when we come back next week, we'll definitely talk about it. But
yeah, for
Nicole,
sure.
thank you again. I had a great conversation talking hoops with you. Um, Once again, make sure tell everybody how they can find you on social media.
Nicole Oltz, NiCholeOltz on Facebook. I'm old. That's pretty much the only platform I'm on frequently. Oh, you can find me there. I will add you, and we can talk more basketball.
Absolutely. So, Nicole, thank you again. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed this episode
Yeah.
of Crossline Sports. Till next time, keep chasing your dreams. Thank you for listening.